see behind me up here on the screen the image of their website. Colleen and Mike Loveless started Loveless Ash in 1988 and grew the company from a garage startup to an industry leader for developing and selling innovative vacuum products under the Ash Vacuum and Dustless Technologies brand names all around the world. Their business is located in Price, Utah, currently employs just under 30 people, and has 16 products patented. Mike Loveless passed away in an airplane accident in 2008. Colleen and her son Spencer now work together daily to maintain and grow the business. Colleen currently serves as the Chamber of Commerce board, on the Chamber of Commerce board as vice president. Is that the Price Chamber of Commerce or the Carbon County Chamber of Commerce? And is on the Castleview Hospital and Zions Bank boards. Giving back to the community is important to Colleen. She feels blessed to have 2 children and 8 grandchildren who live nearby. Will you please join me in giving a warm welcome to Colleen Loveless.
That on, so it'll give it just a minute. Okay. Hey, this is kind of fun. I don't know if you know it, but I love college campuses. And so the way that I understand it, you have different guest speakers that are coming in and giving you information on their businesses and things so that you can kind of see how an entrepreneur works. Is that correct? Okay. All right. So, okay, it's kind of hard when I look at all of you because I think I'm 3 times your age. Okay? So I'm a little bit old, but I have a thing that says I'm younger than springtime and older than dirt. So you have to remember where everything's coming from because there's a lot of things that happen to you in life, and until you get to a point where you can actually look back on it and see what it's done to you, you're just in the thick of it. So you kids are just in the thick of what you're doing right now in your schooling. So it's kind of fun. Let me tell you just a little bit about me. I grew up in Huntington, Utah. So do any of you know where Huntington is? Okay. I was number 5 of 8 children. So as I grew up, I had a very inquisitive mind. And I wanted to know what was going on around me, and I wanted to be a part of it. So if there was some place to go or something to do, I wanted to be there. When I went to high school, I took typing, and I took stenography, okay? No computers. So the world as you know it right now did not exist. When I was in high school, I told myself I was never going to be a secretary. You know what I've done for the last 30 years? Yeah, glorified secretary. So, famous last words. Never say you're not going to do something. Chances are pretty good that you're going to do it. I grew up on a farm, loved it, loved the country life. But I learned that I needed to have a balance in life. And so I had to learn. I love learning. And we had a thing where we went through and identified strengths in our key people in our company. And my first strength was learner. So just teach me. You guys are all sponges. So if you are going to learn something, you're going to become better. Okay, now my husband Mike was a diesel mechanic. And how many of you in here are mechanical? Raise your hand. Very few mechanical people. Okay, mechanical people think differently. If you're mechanical, You're going to look at things and you're going to figure them out. Okay? So my husband, we had a wood stove in our house. And that wood stove was dirty. So Mike thought, and he says, okay, you take a fireproof filter, you take a vacuum, you put them together, you suck out the ashes, right? Okay, that concept had never been done. Had never, ever been done. So he created the very first ash vacuum. 55 gallons, 55-gallon drum sat outside the house with an Electrolux vacuum sitting on top of it, snake through everything into the house, turn on a switch, suck out the ash, put it in the 55-gallon drum, and then you wait till the spring, you pull up all your scouts, you load it into the truck, and you take it to the dump and you empty it, okay? So that was the beginning of our company. And we sat on that idea for 4 years. Then we decided that we wanted to start a company. We didn't know how to do it. Mike was a diesel mechanic. I was a school teacher. But we started thinking. And Mike was very, very energetic. He had far too much energy. And he had all these ideas. I didn't have the time or the energy to keep up with him. So by the time we'd kind of hatched this idea of our company for about 4 years, then he was ready to give it up. And I finally said, okay, he needs my help. He can't do it alone. And so together, we started making our company. Okay, can I get to the next picture? Is it just? Okay. All right, this is what a startup company looks like. Do you recognize it? Okay, there's a one-car garage this direction, another one-car garage this direction. If you notice, there's no door on it. There's no floor. It's dirt. Okay? This is where we made our first ash vacuum. Then it got to be too small. We employed college kids that would come and help us do things, but this was too small. So you see the framework above it? We made a 2-story shop. And so we did our manufacturing down below. We did storage up above. So as we did, now this was back in 1988. Were any of you even born in '88? I didn't think so. Okay. Now, so we didn't know how to start a business. We went to a patent attorney and we said, we have this great idea. And we told him about it. You know what he told us? Hey, 10 people will have that idea. They'll have the exact same idea or a variation of it. One person will do something about it. And he said, you two are different. He says, you've given this a lot more thought than most people do. So we decided to see if there was a market for it before we ever patented it. Okay? Patent attorney said most people make a patent and then they try to sell it. But you only have 1 year. Okay? If you introduce your product to the market, you have 1 year before you can apply for a patent. After that, it's public knowledge. We're going to talk about patents in just a little bit. Now, let me tell you about fears. Now, another thing that I want you to do is, as I'm talking, I'm going to stop at about 5 after 1, okay? I want you to think of questions that you can ask me, because I can tell you all kinds of stuff, but I want you to ask me at the end, okay? Now, we decided to go to the Emery County Fair. Scary as all get out. We're going to go to a place where we know these people. They're our friends. They might be someone that we work with. What are they going to think about us? Let me show you what we took to this county fair. Oh, that's me, upside down. I was helping with the construction. Okay, this was our little baby. Now, Let me describe this. This is a 16-gallon drum, has 2 wheels that you can rock it back. It's sleek, has pinstriping, and it's an attachment to a vacuum. Okay? This is what we took to the county fair. We were so proud of this. So we're at the county fair. This fellow comes up to us, and he says, you know, this is really good, but this is not the product that you're going to make your money on. I mean, it floored us. We thought it was awesome. We sold 27 of these in the first year. When he left, Mike turned to me and he said, he just called my baby ugly. You know what? This is not the product that we ended up making money on. I'll show you that in just a minute. Okay? Now, as we started to get to Castledale, you turn a corner to start going into town. If either one of us had talked and said, I don't think we want to do this, would have turned around, gone home, and forgotten about it. Maybe. But as it was, no one said anything. We went to the fair, we had a good experience, we sold 27 vacuums that year, and we were on a roll. Another thing that we told ourselves was we have $6,000. We're going to see if we can make this company run. If it does, fine, we'll keep going. If it doesn't, we're out $6,000. Okay? Now, let me show you what, let me go back to this fellow that came to the county fair. He was very, very prophetic. He knew we were a startup. He knew that we didn't know the ropes, but he also knew that we could do better. Okay? This is called the shortcut. This is an 8-gallon model. See the pinstripes and the gold label on it? Okay, we're getting better. It's still an attachment to a vacuum. This is the one that we sell today. It's a 6-gallon. It's motorized. This motor came 2 years after we started our business. Okay, evolution. We decided to take our products to a trade show. So they have trade shows for everything. The first one that we went to was for the hearth industry. It was in Reno. We had no idea how to take this to market. We had no idea what you do, what you say, where you go. We'd learned how to order parts. We'd learned how to manufacture, but we didn't know much more than that. So we went to a trade show, which was in Reno. Now, Mike had a really good buddy that was a high school buddy, well, childhood buddy, and he was a salesman for a company. We figured he knew how to start a business. He knew the lingo. He knew what to teach us. We talked him into going to the trade show with us. Okay, this is what a trade show looked like back in 1989. The little short guy that's right in the center, that's Dal. Okay, Dal Hills is an amazing individual. We get to this trade show, and Mike and I are stepping back thinking, okay, Dal, teach us. What do we need to say? What do we need to do? So Dal's talking to a fellow, and the guy says, do you sell to dealers or do you sell direct? And Dal's talking to them, and he says, no, we sell to dealers. And they're talking along. And I see Mike's eyes get great big. Well, the fellow walks away. Mike turns to Dal, and he says, Dal, what do you think you're doing? We don't do drugs. Do we sell to dealers? Okay, dealers, we're druggies. Okay, that was big. So Dal had to explain the whole thing to us. No, Mike. You sell to dealers. You can sell to individuals, but you want to sell to dealers because they're going to sell to somebody else. Okay, we can sell to dealers. So with that, we learned that there's a whole new lingo to the business that you're interested in. And you're going to find that out. Whatever that business is, whatever industry it's in, you're going to learn what that industry has to tell you. So there's a quote by a man named Robert Kiyosaki, and he said, if you want to go somewhere, it's best to find someone who has already been there. Those who have gone through it can help you get through it too. by reaching out to those who have faced a similar challenge, we can often find direction and even a solution. So Dal was pivotal for us. He gave us the heads up. Now, let me tell you about another fear. I had a very, very real fear that I bet none of you have ever had in your whole entire life. I was afraid of the telephone. Anybody here afraid of the telephone? All right, score, I am in good company. All right, now, I was so afraid of talking to people on the telephone. What happens if they don't like me? What happens if they don't like what I say? What happens if they disagree? So I took a class. I went to a class that would teach me how to talk on the telephone for business. It was the best thing I've done in my whole entire life. And I learned one concept from that. Fake it until you make it. Those people have no idea who you are, what you look like. I mean, you may be in your pajamas, and they don't know that. Okay? And I learned, if you will talk with a smile on your face, it's portrayed through the phone line. And I had that happen just the other day. I was talking to a very, very irate man that felt like he was right. He was crazy. But I can't tell him he's crazy because he's calling my company, and the call gets escalated to me. So I put a smile on my face, and I'm talking to him, and he says, "Are you laughing at me?" Well, kind of, sort of, but I'm not going to tell you that. So your smile is portrayed in what you're doing. So just remember that. If you want to diffuse a situation, smile. Sacrifice. Okay, if you're going to start a company, you're going to have to be able to sacrifice for it. Most people going into a business think it's all fun, hunky-dory, make money hand over fist. Not going to happen, kids. Doesn't happen. You had better be able to sacrifice for what you're doing. Now, they say if you have your own business, you can work half a day. You know what? They're right. It doesn't matter which 12 hours of the day you want to work. And you better believe it. 12 hours a day, you'll be there. If you want it bad enough, that's what you'll do. Okay? Let me kind of show you how we progressed. This is what I looked like. Big glasses. Life was good back then. Okay? This is my office. This is my kitchen. And my husband took a picture of me sitting at the kitchen table. I couldn't find it, but I was sitting at the kitchen table, talking on the phone, eating my breakfast, and feeding my toddler. Okay? My house was everything. Okay? Then we bought this facility, 6,000 square feet. We thought we were in heaven. This is what we moved into in 2005, 18,000 square feet. Okay? You progress. So we moved 4 times in 30 years. Now, my husband worked for the power company, and before we moved into the building just ahead of this one, before we moved into this building right here, he was working at the power company, so he was working a full-time job, working a full-time job for us. And I was working full-time from home. Now, when we got to where we were, excuse me, in between locations, we were trying to get a press moved from our house down to this shop. And I was just so frustrated. I call him up, "Mike, do you want me to move your press, or do you want to come home and move it?" He says, "I'll be right there." So you have to make decisions that are going to help you out. Now, how long do you think it takes to get a paycheck? Most people think, hey, I start a company, I'm going to get a paycheck tomorrow. Don't plan on it. Mike was a diesel mechanic and had a very good paying job. We lived on half of his income and invested the other half. Okay? We did not take a paycheck for 8 years. I didn't get a paycheck for 10. Now, why Mike got one before me, I have no idea. But you have some sacrifices. Now, there's times when you have issues in your company. Our issues came around pricing. And when it came time to talk about a price increase, we'd get out the boxing gloves and we'd go to work, because we knew it wasn't going to be pretty, because Mike loved giving things away and I liked making a, making a profit. Now let me show you. This is a mold of our wet dry vacuum. This one came about in 1997. Now, my husband's the one in the center. The Anglo guy is Jim Shudell. He was our molder. He went over to China with us. We couldn't afford to make our tooling in the US. That piece of steel right there is 3,000 pounds. It's a very big boat anchor if you mess up. We were into debt $500,000 to get this product on. So the fellow that's to the side was the molder. Now, you're going to have challenges along the way, okay? Now, one of my biggest challenges came when my husband passed away. That was in 2008, and, okay. He was the inspiration. He was the one that made it all happen. I was the one that made sure we had the money, made sure that we had the bills paid, that we received our money in. And so he had his circle of interest and I had mine. And Mike was of the point to where he'd wake up all hours of the night and he'd have these ideas. And he'd go down to work. I mean, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. I mean, it got to the point to where we put a cot in his office so that he could get some sleep. You get your inspiration at all different times. And one of the things that I used to love to tell him, oh, he drove me nuts, because he would have all these really crazy ideas, and finally I'd say, you know, Mike, I just hate it when you're right, because then you're going to make more work for me. Because when he had a good idea, it was a good idea, but it always made more work for me. So sometimes I didn't like him doing that. But my son had worked for us for about 3 years when his dad died. And so then he stepped up and the 2 of us run it. And so I get to go to work with my son every day. And it's really, really nice. But let me tell you what's crazy about that. He's a lot closer to your age. Okay, he's between my age and your age. He is the techie person. He wants to move it. He wants to shake it. He wants to do something new. He wants to improve. I want the slow and steady. I like what works. So my son, he spent a year researching a new ERP system because we had QuickBooks to do all of our inventory. It got to the point to where it was just overloading it, couldn't handle it. So he researched an ERP system that we eventually purchased out of Germany, and then he implemented it, and then he worked with the tech so that he could make it work for us. We've now been 3 years on that system. We're still learning, and it's very expensive. Whatever you do in business, just plan on it costing a little bit. Now, patents, let me talk about those real quick. We have 16 patents on our wall, and we specialize in dust control. We started out with a Nash vacuum. That's for hot, dry dust. Then we evolved into a drywall sander, a drywall vacuum, a wet dry vacuum, a HEPA vacuum, and I'll show you some of our products here in just a minute. But we started expanding. Now, marketing is really kind of a crapshoot because unless you're good at it, it's kind of an elephant. You don't know what to do with it. And Mike and I were not marketers. And so we employed people to help us do marketing. so that we could get their expertise. This is our HEPA-vac, okay? Do you see the hand grinder? There's a clear shroud on it that it looks kind of like a dish. The shroud goes on over the grinder, you hook it up to your vacuum, you turn on the vacuum, and you suck all the dust in. We could grind this floor right here and you wouldn't have the dust out. We specialize in dust control because there's a need. Okay, you know, you hear necessity is the mother of invention. It really is. If you want it, you need it, you'll do it. Now, case in point, when we were starting our company, my mother-in-law had the idea of making fitted diapers. Okay? The throwaway diapers were just coming in, and she says, you just need to have fitted diapers. My father-in-law thought of bed liners for trucks before there were ever any bed liners for trucks. So 10 people will think of it, one person will do something. After we got our business up and running and we had our first patent, we had 3 people in price alone come up to us and say, I've thought of that. I've thought of that. We thought we were the only ones. Nope, doesn't happen. Okay, now we have a saying on one of our walls down at our shop that says, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. It's up to you. If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Now, this is a family of products that we have. We have big vacuums, we have small vacuums, we have backpack vac, we have shrouds for grinders, for saws, for drywall sanders. This has all come about because someone decided there was a need. So in our shop, we have a sign that says Innovative Dust Control Solutions. And so that's what we try to specialize in. Now, how many of you have ever seen the movie The Greatest Showman? Okay, there's some songs in that show. Okay, have you ever looked at the words, listened to the words? Okay, there's a song called Tightrope. And it says, some people long for a life that is simple and planned, tied with a ribbon. Some people won't sell the sea because they're safer on land to follow what's written. But if it's all an adventure, it comes with a breathtaking view. We had so many times when we'd look at each other and would say, is this worth it? All these hours, all this time, all this money. And then we'd say, you know what? Yeah, it's worth it. Okay, the next song, This Is Me. I won't let them break me down to dust. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. And you have to have that attitude. You have to be an individual. You have to have that dream. Okay, then the next one is A Million Dreams. I close my eyes to see the world that is waiting up for me, that I call my own. Through the dark, through the door, through where no one's been before, but it feels like home to me. Every night I lie in bed, the brightest colors fill my head. A million dreams are keeping me awake. I think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see. A million dreams is all it's going to take. So, I relate to that movie. I relate to the struggles. I relate to trying to be an individual. And you know what? All of your struggles are going to be different than mine. But you have to have the determination to go out and do that. You need to hit your knees. You need to pray for inspiration. When you wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning, you need to listen to it. You need to listen. You need to take those ideas, you need to write them down. And then you need to act on them when the morning comes. One of my employees took this picture. That's my shop. Guess what's on the other side of my shop? The pot of gold. But you know what? You don't get there without the work that goes with it. But I've been amazed how 30 years can change a person. We always said there's more to being in business than getting a paycheck. You're affecting lives, you're affecting people all over the world. I mean, I've been to Canada, to China, to Sweden, to England, to Japan. I mean, I have met some really cool people. And they're friends. But you have to be able to give back to them. So, you know, there's a couple questions that you ask. Have you always made the right choices? For me, no. I've lost some money. Have the lessons that I've learned been hard? Yeah, pretty much. Would I do it again if I had the chance? Yeah, I probably would. Am I a better person because of what I've learned along the way? Definitely. So I want you to follow your dreams. I want you to think about it. You don't realize the tools that your instructors are giving you, the things that they're trying to instill in you so that you can do something more with your life. And so I want you to go out. I want you to live those dreams. So we have a saying, life is good. And you need to remember that. So now, let me open it up to some questions. So just remember, I warned you in the beginning. I need you to give me some questions. What do you want to know? Okay?
How many different products do you sell within the company?
Okay, so how many different products do we sell within the company? Okay, let me go back. Okay, this one up here is a slurry vacuum, 55 gallons. This one in the middle is 55 gallons. This one on the side here is 35 gallons. We probably have a storehouse of probably 25 to 30 products, because what you do is you don't just have one product. Like we would have an ash vacuum, but we'd have it in 3 different colors. We'd have 2 different ash vacuums in 3 different colors. So we probably, you know, maybe it's 30 to 35. So that's how many products we have. Okay, another question, right here. Okay, so you're saying of all of these that we have here, what was the most difficult to develop? Okay, what you're looking at right now is a family within the industry for construction. Okay, our ash vacuum is in the industry of hearth, so fireplace, stuff like that. Okay, the one that was probably the most difficult are the 2 vacuums on the bottom right side, the wet-dry vacuum and the HEPA vacuum. Those took about 2 years, no, probably about a year of design. Now, okay, let me tell you what happened. Does anyone in here do 3D CAD design? Okay, when we started, we had no idea how to do it. And we were paying somebody to do it for us. So we bought the program called SolidWorks. We took it with us on vacation over Christmas holiday. My husband learned how to do it, became the engineer. Okay, it was in his head. He knew what he wanted. So as we were doing this, the molds for that were made over in China, and we were into it $500,000 before we got our first vacuum on the market. Now, people used to tease Mike and say, you know what, just let me buy your first one. And he'd say, you can't afford it. You cannot afford my first vacuum. He says, the freight would kill you. Okay, so that's what we had. Okay, another question? Okay.
How did you deal with growth?
Okay, how did we deal with growth? Let me tell you, growth is extremely difficult. For 3 years running, we were honored in the top 100 fastest growing companies in Utah, 3 years straight. We had 1,500% growth. But when you're making nothing, 1,500% growth is really good. But when you have no money, no one wants to loan you any money. So when you start making money, everybody and their friend wants to loan you money because you're successful. But you have nothing. I remember walking into the bank, talking to the bank manager, looking for a loan, and he says, what do you have for collateral? Oh, you have so little. I said, my son is 8 years old. Will he do? And he wouldn't take him. I don't know. I just don't get it. I tell my son, I says, we tried to mortgage you and they wouldn't take you. But, I mean, you have nothing. We mortgaged our car, our truck. We had bought an apartment. And so we were borrowing against our apartment. I mean, it was a really good thing that my husband had a good job, because we lived on half of his wages so that we could grow our company. And it's expensive. And it takes a long time. And another thing is you have to be very, very careful when you're growing, because you can actually go out of business because you grow too fast. And we had people tell us that. And we had a neighbor once that said, you don't do anyone any favors if you go out of business. So it's a tightrope. You know, do you charge less and sell more? Do you charge more and sell less? What's your way of doing it? Okay, another question. Okay, in the back.
What are your main competitors for your company?
Okay. What are our main competitors? Okay, in the beginning, when we had an Ash vacuum, we thought we had no competitors. The first year we went to trade show, we found a competitor. It didn't work very well, but they were a competitor. And so we found that our vacuum, even now, 30 years later, are still working. Okay? But in this industry, we have a lot of competitors: Festool, Ryobi, Makita, DeWalt, Bosch. We have a lot of competitors. And the thing that's funny is, from our company, they are copying some really cool technology that we developed. And now, as you see the little shrouds down below that are on the hand tools, now all of the companies, Milwaukee, Makita, DeWalt, they're all making their own shrouds that are proprietary to their products. We make products that are universal. So the products that we manufacture are going to fit 90% of the products in the market. So we have to be inventive, we have to be creative, but then you find that other people come and knock you off, even though they're not totally taking away your patents, they're still taking away part of your market share. And so you have to be competitive with those people. Now, we also do private labels. So we make shrouds for Bosch, Milwaukee, Hilti. We make shrouds for them, so we are competing against ourselves. Does that make sense? Do you understand that concept? Okay. Another question. Oh, yes. You know, it's funny. The question is, okay, are there other people that help us along the way to develop our company, right? Okay, we had no help from the government. No help from the government, but people are who helps you. So what you find out is you start a business, you need to network with as many people as you can, pick their brains, find out what they think about your ideas. Now, my husband worked for the power company, and he's been gone 10 years, and I had a phone call yesterday from a fellow that worked with him, and he was just having a little bit of a rough day, and he says, I've just been going down memory lane, and I was thinking of Mike and this situation, and he said, we had so much fun listening to Mike talk about his products. And so people would give him an idea, or they would critique what he would say. Now, Mike's brother, Randy, is 5 years older, and he's passed away, but he was probably our best advocate. And so Randy and Mike would bounce ideas off of each other all the time. And when we had our first Ash vacuum, it didn't have a motor. Randy kept saying, Mike, you've got to motorize it, you've got to motorize it. And Mike says, I can't figure it out. I don't know how to make it work because this and this and this. And, you know, he thought of it. But then one night he woke up and he said, okay, I know how to motorize it. And he motorized it. Now, another thing, if you look at the vacuums on the bottom right, we used a wet-dry vacuum. And then we had developed a HEPA vacuum, which is a little bit different, filtering system. And it didn't sell. Nobody wanted to spend $300 for a vacuum. I mean, it just didn't sell. Randy kept saying, get rid of it, move on, bag it, it's not going to sell. Well, in 2010, we had OSHA came down with the ERP and RRP rules for lead abatement, and HEPA became huge. We were one of the only people that had an affordable vacuum for what they were doing, and they were imposing fines of, you know, $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 for people that were not being safe with lead abatement. And oh, it was a horrible scenario that it created, because for us, we had to go and we had to put out POs so that we could get product. Well, you create a snowball effect. So we put in our POs, they put in their POs, they put in their POs, and it went on and on. Well, guess what? Because they couldn't get a HEPA vacuum, OSHA came back and said, oh, never mind. We know everybody's going to have a hard time getting this, so we're just not going to fine you anymore. Well, guess what happens to this backlog? It just keeps coming. We ended up with 3 years of inventory for some of our products. 3 years. Try sitting on that. That's hard. Okay, another question. Okay. Good question. Our main markets, so the question was, is it Utah, overseas, or just where? So our main markets are the US, okay? We have different pockets within the US. Obviously, back east is very, very big just because it's so densely populated. California's big because they're very highly regulated. Now, we sell into different countries. We sell into Philippines, Brazil, Sweden, Denmark. Different places have different needs, and so we end up filling those needs. But we do have some of our products made in China. We engineered them. We had the tooling made in China. The products are made in China. They come to the US, come to price, and then we assemble. So we sell into Mexico, we sell into Canada, but our main market is the United States. Okay, we have time for another 2 or 3 questions. Okay, in the back. How did we get people to know about the product? Okay, There's 2 or 3 different schools of thought. You can do it yourself, but you have to think back. In 1988, we didn't have the internet, okay? In 1989, I started taking computer classes. I knew nothing about computers. So we couldn't put it on the web. Now, you guys would just put it on eBay, Amazon, say, okay, we've got a market. We didn't have that back then. So you have a system of reps that you can have proprietary to your company, but that's normally when you're bigger. So before that, there are what's called independent sales reps, where they may rep 4, 5, 10 different products, and they're going to go into do-it centers. They're going to go into Ace Hardwares. They're going to go into the corner hardware store. They're going to go to Grainger. They're going to go to Sherwin-Williams. They're going to go to Home Depot. So you have independent sales reps that go out to these places and they take your products. So we have a group of about 65 independent sales reps across the United States. So we use sales reps. We used to use magazines. Magazines don't get read very much anymore, so we don't do too much advertising there. We do have our own web presence. We do Amazon. We are in Home Depot. We're in Sherwin-Williams. We're in Grainger. We're in some of the bigger industrial supply houses. We're working into the middle chain of people. Some of those stores, IFA, Tractor Supply, C&H, a lot of different places that way. So you have to put yourself in contact with people as to where you want to go to market. Okay? Another question. Okay, how do we deal with debt? Very, very good question. And after we had been in business for, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 years, we found out that we had personally loaned to the company a large amount of money. Our accountant said, you've got to put that on the books or you're never going to get it back. So we took that debt that the company owed us personally and then started paying on it. So the company couldn't pay very much. But when you have debt, you have to get very creative. And you're going to have debt. So just plan on being creative. You have to have a cash flow. You have to pay your employees, you have to pay your bills, and you have to get the money from the people that owe you. Now, I had someone tell me that you have to speak with a smile on your face when you're talking to someone that owes you money, and you have to make them your friend. Otherwise, if you alienate them, they'll never pay you. So I worked really, really hard on that. And debt is always an issue. Sometimes you have angel investors. Sometimes you have partners. Different things have their pluses, their minuses. And you're probably going to make a few mistakes along the way. But it's still worth it. So I'm going to say thank you for letting me speak. And thank you, Alan.
We have a little gift here for you, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you.
Presenting about your company. We'll see you all next week.